Charles, 24 hours ago, we were reporting on that foiled terror attack. Two young radicalized men who are alleged to have been trying to target some of the candidates. They were arrested in Marseille, where the far-right's Marine Le Pen will be staging a rally later.
Yeah, just to recap, François, police arrested two suspects in Marseille on Tuesday for allegedly attempting to stage an attack targeting the first round of the elections. This has sparked a number of reactions from the candidates. Most of them, like François Fillon and Emmanuel Macron, called for unity and for the campaign to continue. Marine Le Pen, of the far right, however, was the one who most used this foiled attack to further her program. This morning, she congratulated the police for their work, but slammed the current socialist government for what she calls its leniency with regards to terrorism.
The problem is they're not getting the proper political guidelines. It's the political class that is ineffective in waging war against terrorism. It's not the police forces or the intelligence community. They work very well and often in difficult conditions because they don't have the necessary manpower.
Well, it so happens that Marine Le Pen is holding a rally this evening in Marseille, as you mentioned, François, just a day after the arrests. Our reporter Luke Shrago is there, and he's joining us on the line. Luke, are you getting a sense that there's a heightened security concern for this rally?
Yes, very much. The security is the watchword of the day. Of course, it was only on Tuesday that those two suspects were arrested here in Marseille, found with firearms and bomb-making equipment. Now, you have to remember at this point that France has been on alert since 2015. It's a very enduring state of emergency, in fact, a long status of alert. And indeed, right the way through the campaign, security has been extremely tight. There have been metal detectors, there have been bag searches, really a heavy police presence, not just to handle the protests as the one you can see behind me, just gearing up against the National Front. And indeed, that security has now even been doubled. The authorities have put concrete blocks in place to stop anything like a vehicular-based attack, and there's going to be more metal detectors and even more searches going on. Now, of course, this is Marine Le Pen's last big rally of the first round, and she hasn't really had a chance to talk about terror, but this will most likely be giving her an opportunity to do that.
So Marine Le Pen has often said she'd be very tough in her fight against Islamic terrorism. But what exactly is in her program on the matter?
Well, again, Marine Le Pen has again, the National Front and Marine Le Pen have been extremely strong on security right the way through. But of course, there hasn't been a major attack in France really since the Bastille Day attack last summer. Now, it hasn't left any real opportunity throughout the campaign for any debate about terror. She's tried to insist on the point, and again, this will most likely be a good good opportunity for her to bring that out this evening. She has consistently linked news events during her rallies and spoken about them at length. Of course, we can expect to hear her, I would expect, really talking about the policies that she's outlined already. For example, increasing the security budget to 2% of France's GDP. Of course, she wants to strip nationality from binationals, at least, who have French nationality. If they're found and convicted of terror offences, she wants to kick out anyone with what they call a dossier S. That's a folder with security services if they're known there. She wants to kick them out of the country. And of course, she wants increased numbers of security personnel. That's 15,000 extra police she wants hired, and an extra 50,000 soldiers.
Well, thank you very much, Luke. Luke Shrago reporting there from Marseille with all the different policy points from Marine Le Pen on the issue of the fight against terror.
And the fight against terror also being talked about by the other candidates.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the broad strokes of their programs on the issue. Centrist candidate Emmanuel Macron has said that he would focus on reforming and improving intelligence gathering. He also wants to increase police ranks by 10,000. Let's move on to conservative François Fillon. He's quite tough on the matter, giving local police more power to close down prayer halls suspected of terrorist links. He also calls to take away French citizenship from any binational citizen involved in terrorist activities, just like Marine Le Pen. And finally, at the other end of the spectrum is Mélenchon. He's calling for France to get out of what he calls, and I quote, destabilizing wars and hypocritical alliances with the oil-rich monarchies of the Gulf, which can be read as a desire to get out of the coalition fighting the Islamic State group in Iraq and Syria. The main argument being that this adds to the chaos. His plan is to fight terrorism by going for its wallet, by going after the funding of terrorist organizations. That means cracking down on the black market and punishing companies who deal with terrorists.
All right, the last few days of a campaign, they're about rallies. We saw Luke Shrago in Marseille. It's also about rallying your core supporters. And in the case of conservative François Fillon, who's been beset by this parliamentary payroll scandal involving his family, it's been a tough task.
It has been a tough task, and to show unity with his party, he's decided to reunite with Alain Juppé, his former rival during the primaries. The two men hadn't been seen together since January 25th in Bordeaux. And that was the day that the first article referring to François Fillon's alleged misuse of public funds by giving fake jobs to his wife that was published. But in a bid to show party unity in the final stretch of the campaign, the two men appeared together in Paris today. They visited the offices of the music streaming service Deezer. Laurent Berstecker has the story.
A symbolic handshake between two former rivals. It was the first time since January that Alain Juppé and François Fillon made a joint public appearance, and despite their recent falling out, both men acted like the best of friends. A way for the mayor of Bordeaux to reiterate his support for the conservative candidate.
We talk a lot on the phone. We've known each other for a long time, haven't we?
Too long to count.
The favorite in last year's right-wing primaries, Alain Juppé was defeated by Fillon in a surprise upset. But after the conservative candidate was accused of corruption, there were calls for Juppé to run instead. The mayor of Bordeaux refused and publicly slammed Fillon for wasting the right's chances. Now, with less than a week to go before an unprecedentedly tight first round, Fillon's chances largely hinge on his ability to unite right-wing voters. On Tuesday, Nicolas Sarkozy also reiterated his support for his former prime minister.
Yeah, with a video Facebook message. So you're trying to get as many votes as possible in the last few days. We saw one technique, the photo op with an important personality. We saw another technique with Marine Le Pen, which is the big rally. Then there's also canvassing, going door to door in those last 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah, and that's the technique we're going to focus on now with Emmanuel Macron. Like all the candidates' team, Emmanuel Macron's supporters are canvassing for votes across the country, but Macron's marcheurs, as they're called, have borrowed techniques developed in the United States and used to great effect by Barack Obama's campaigns back in 2008. Now, will Obama's winning recipes work in this election? Check out this France 24 report by Claire Williams, Karina Chabour, and Jessica Sestily.
Pour moi, les badges sont toujours bien, les autocollants toujours bien, les caillouets, pour moi, un peu moins, mais c'est vous.
Campaign rule number 1, connect. Wearing standout matching raincoats is not the best tactic.
Pour moi, la bonne pratique, c'est toujours d'être comme ami voisin, et pas comme juste militant. Ouais.
And so the raincoats come off. Lex Paulson worked on Barack Obama's grassroots election campaign. He now teaches at Sciences Po University in Paris. And as a volunteer, he's training Macron supporters to go door-to-door campaigning, Obama style.
C'est pas « Bonjour, je suis membre d'En Marche ». Non, on fait pas ça. Bonjour, je suis Lex, volontaire, voisin, et on est là pour encourager les gens à aller voter. Message positif, pas de pression, mais positif, 3 minutes et prochaine porte.
They're political novices with very high expectations.
There's something powerful going on. Enthusiasm, a spirit of hope. Macron gives us hope in the same way Obama did for Americans.
Lex Paulson is not the only one drawing on his experience of Obama's campaign. The former Washington correspondent for a French TV channel has also joined Macron's team.
I remember in Iowa there were young people who had quit their jobs to join Obama's team because they felt like they were going to change the world.
Like those young Americans did with Obama, 27-year-old Augustin Boulot has taken a chance on Macron. In July last year, he left his comfortable consultant job in Madrid. After 6 months volunteering for the 39-year-old candidate, he was offered a temporary contract coordinating activists in Paris. But Augustin doesn't have any political experience of his own.
The first stage is to teach local committees and members what activism is all about. We had to teach them the kind of arguments they need when they're on the ground.
At the Paris headquarters, 150 people coordinate campaigners working on the ground, and they're all desperate for their candidate to enjoy an Obama-style victory.
All right, and as we do every day, Charles, let's take a look at the daily polls. And again, as we've seen with previous big elections around the world, polls are to be taken these days with a touch of a bit of a grain of salt.
Especially when they're this tight. I mean, this latest poll, we have Macron in the lead with 23% of intentions of votes in the first round, and Le Pen behind 22.5%. We got also Fillon in third place with 19.5%, and the far left lead candidate Mélenchon on 19%.
All right, and I heard this morning on the radio the director of one of the big public television stations saying normally Sunday night, 8 p.m. local time, you have the names of the two people who will be in the runoff on May the 7th. They're anticipating it may not happen at 8 p.m.
because it's so tight. I mean, with these kinds of margin of errors, and it's all packed for the four candidates in really tight quarters.
All right, a four-horse race that, of course, you can follow here on France 24 on Sunday. And also, by the way, if you're interested and wish you could vote but can't and want to see which candidate best resembles you, we have the nifty Vote Compass tool.
Absolutely, this is a tool developed by France 24 in partnership with Vox Pop Labs. It calculates how your political views compare with those of the French presidential candidates. It's very precise, and over 40,000 people have used it so far. And Vox Pop Labs are actually one of the few pollsters to predict the Brexit vote, so they're quite accurate.
All right, many thanks for that, Charles Belgrand, for that campaign beat, and we'll have more tomorrow at the same time. Coming